Well, enough of our production meetings on air. We mentioned last week that, I'm sort of getting reframed in the eyes of casting agents as the villain, now that I'm a straight middle-aged guy. Yeah, in the same way that Middle Eastern actors had to deal with this after 9/11, I am now in a world of like the manosphere. I am now everyone's favorite villain. And I realized that maybe these assertions aren't that far off the mark, because I was out with Iona. Jen is back now, thankfully, but she only got back on the weekend. And I was out with Iona at our local pub, and I was getting Iona a juice box and I was getting myself a scooey. It's a schooner for anyone who lives outside of New South Wales. Do they have the schooners in? They don't know how to do it in Victoria, do they?
There used to be a real state-by-state, demarcation when it became to alcohol serving sizes. But I feel like as the borders have been crossed more by people, it feels like pubs have incorporated
globalization. Is that what you're saying?
Every measurement of drink that you can get is now available. Like, it's not a foreign language anymore. It's not
the New World Order. That's what you're saying. I'm getting it, Will.
It's not like the rail gauges anymore, where they had to change them at the state borders. I believe you can now get a schooner in a Victorian pub. But you're right. Schooner is like, for me, when I first moved to New South Wales from Victoria, schooner was like a foreign piece of language.
Yeah, well, we grew up drinking like a smaller size drink. Anyway, that's not the discussion we're having. The discussion is that I ordered a schooner. Now, when I was a kid, I had very fond memories of when my father would come home from work, and he would crack a long neck and he would pour himself a glass of beer. He would sit me on his lap and let me sip the foam off his beer, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I get my schooner and I'm like, oh, here's a good daddy-daughter bonding moment.
Yeah.
I say, Iona, do you want to sip the foam off my beer? And she's like, yeah. And so I picked her up and she sipped the foam off my beer. And then I turned around and I swear to God, the entire bar was staring at me. What the fuck?
Because you're like one of those horrible people on Instagram who makes their 2-year-old vape. Like, you're a monster. You're a news.com.au story.
But then I was like, I felt like, oh, okay, cool. So, obviously, put the drink down and didn't give her any more. And then I was thinking about it. I was like, like in my head, and like had Mandela affected it. I was like, oh no, but there's no alcohol in foam. Like, foam is the non-alcoholic part of the beer. Like, that was just a fact that came to my mind. And my sister...
No alcohol in foam?
Well, no, like, I'm not saying this is true. I'm saying...
No, it's not true. How could you possibly think that was true?
Potentially because my father had the same conversation with my outraged mother.
What do you think the foam is made of? The foam is just overly carbonated beer.
Will, I'm not saying like it's a rational thought.
Do you think there's no milk in the foam in the top of a cappuccino? Like, it's made of the same stuff.
So my sister came to stay to help me out, to lend a hand. And I was telling her, I said, do you remember when we were kids and Dad used to, let us sip the foam out? And she's like, oh yeah. And I said, I did that with Iona. And she's like, you fucking what? You can't do that. And I'm like, well, I didn't mean to. Like, it was just, I thought it was a cute father-daughter moment. It was like something, that we used to do. Then she's like, you can't, like, there's alcohol in the foam. I'm like, are you sure about that? Because for some reason I'd rationalized in my mind that there's no alcohol in foam. She's like, it's part of the same drink. What are you talking about? So
she's making very similar arguments to the ones that I immediately made because it's obvious.
So I was talking to a couple of mates who are also dads and running them through what I'd done. And they're like, oh yeah, like, no, you can't do that. And one of the dads said, I actually had a similar issue with my daughter, because she saw Daddy drinking a beer and she was like, oh, I want to drink that. And so I let her have a sip, and the taste was so repulsive to her. She's like, oh, yuck, Daddy's drink, no good. And so that's kind of killed her. And I was like, okay, well, that's my next step. So I let Iona take a sip of my next beer. Turns out she loves it. She fucking loves it.
She got a taste from that foam. You gave her the baby chino version of it first before she moved up to the real thing.
I'm screwed. I don't know what to do. Like, it's like, am I creating? Like, is this the?
Maybe there should be a thing like when you can go to a cafe and the kids can get a baby chino, which is just the foam, none of the coffee. Yeah. Is there equivalent at the pub where you go in for a schooner and she just gets a little? Like, Billy Brownless, the AFL, like, this has really turned into our AFL football podcast, and I know this is Tofop, but he refers to beers as frothies.
Frothies.
But maybe there should be a product for juniors that is just all frost that you can take your kid down to the pub and they can have a little frothy.
Do they still make, and this is what they were called, fags, the lolly cigarettes?
They're called fads.
Okay, they were fags, and then they're fads. Do they still make those?
I believe so, but I think the latest thing they did was they took the red burning end off them. So now they're pretty much just white sticks.
As they should all have been. What about Big Boss cigars? Have you seen one of those?
Don't think, well, I haven't seen one for a while. I don't know. I mean, I've never been to a Big Boss cigar lounge. Maybe there's still some places where you can get one. I've never seen a sporting team celebrate after winning a championship by handing around some Big Boss cigars.
Are they going to bring out some like musk versions of vapes? Like, can you get some like lolly vapes?
Lolly vapes for kids. Well, I mean, vapes are already for kids. They're all lolly flavors for that reason.
So what do you reckon, I do now? Like, so Iona is not like she's not like a bratty kid or a kid who gets,
No.
we give her treats.
She might be now that she's a drunk.
Well, this is the thing. Like, what is the best strategy forward? Is like, do I have to just now not drink around her so she doesn't ever see it? I mean, that's something I don't drink that much. So it is possible that I could, avoid drinking in front of her so she forgets about it. Because that's the other thing is 3-year-olds move on very quickly. At the moment, it's just she's all about the beer, man. she wants to blow the top off a couple of frothies after a hard day's daycare. She wants to kick back. Just pop the lid and a couple of frothies.
Look, I mean, there is a point, isn't there, where you don't want to make alcohol so taboo that it is enticing because it is taboo.
Yeah.
But I do think that, I mean, personally, that is the moment where I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to at least have a break where she doesn't see me drinking for a while because like you said, it doesn't take her very long to move on. Yeah. So it's not like you have to commit to, I'm never drinking in front of her again. You just need to get to that period where she's distracted by something else.
Yeah, she just sees me in the backyard just pounding the vape. She's like, oh, that looks fun. I don't know what I want to do next.
Daddy, you smell like bubblegum. This is great.
Yeah. I saw Daddy with a hypodermic needle and a rope in the backyard wrapped around his arm. Oh, it's just exercising. Yeah, it's just exercising. To see the full video, join our Patreon.
Patreon.com/Tofop.